This is the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, Bo Cook from Loan Market, BTZD, the official apparel partner of the Paracave Podcast, and the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and this is the Tipping Podcast for round number 20 of the NRL. Slowly but surely getting closer to semi-finals in September, with 7 rounds to go in the regular season. So it's coming down to the business end of the season. Teams are going to be wanting to win games to either get into that top 8, stay in that top 8, or get into that top 4 or stay in that top 4. So 7 games this weekend as 3 teams have byes: the St George Dragons, Illawarra Dragons, the South Sydney Rabbitohs and the Canberra Raiders. So 7 games this weekend after State of Origin, which is on this Wednesday night. So when this podcast comes out, which will be Wednesday, it'll be game day for State of Origin. So may your team win, be that New South Wales or Queensland. I am going to say New South Wales. Look, as a staunch New South Welshman, I really hope the New South Wales Blues can get up in this one. The last game of the State of Origin series, they've already lost the series 2-0 so far to the Maroons. Look, it's a really interesting game at a core stadium. They're expecting about 80,000 there at the stadium. A lot of ins, a lot of outs. A few questionable decisions to put players in. But for myself, Regan Campbell-Gillard, Mitchell Moses and Clint Gutherson are playing for the Blues. They are from the Parramatta Eels. But the big selection question marks were Cody Walker at 5'8", and probably Bradman Best in the centres. So we'll just have to wait and see how they go. Obviously, Cody played Origin before, but Bradman making his debut. So we wish Bradman all the best in his State of Origin debut in the centres there. So going to be interesting there. Going to be interesting to see how many minutes Clint Gutherson gets tonight, when this podcast comes out, I should say. So it's going to be interesting to see where he's going to play and also how many minutes he gets on the field at a core stadium. So the Queenslanders, they've only had to have a couple of changes. Reece Walsh and Thomas Flegler out. Reece obviously suspended for 3 weeks due to that contrary conduct with the referee in that game for Brisbane. So AJ Brimson comes into the fullback role, and Jeremiah Nanai comes in for Tom Flegler. So going to be an interesting game. Look, I'm going to tip New South Wales to win 26-18. I'm going to say that Steve Crichton will be the first try scorer for New South Wales. I'm going to say that Clint Gutherson will be the last try scorer for New South Wales. But New South Wales will get the job done 26-18 at home to make it a 2-1 series win to the Maroons. Now, the strange thing for the Maroons is they'll get the State of Origin shield presented to them at a core stadium. So I thought they should have probably got it at game 2 in front of their home fans. It's always a questionable decision where and when you give the shield to the winners of the State of Origin series. I guess if it was like something like 2-0 like it was this year and Queensland were playing at home, they probably should have got the Shield at home. So it's going to be a bit of a bittersweet thing for them if they lose the game, but then they get the State of Origin Shield after that. So it was a little bit like the Queensland women in their State of Origin series. They lost the game up there at Townsville, but they got the Shield as they won the series. So a little bit like them as well. But anyway, I'm going to hopefully tip New South Wales to win, and if you're listening to this, I will be on a live FM 90.5. You can catch me with the Hills District Dads on the Hills District Dads show. So check that one out if you're not wanting to listen to the commentary, or if you're not wanting to listen to the radio commentary, have a listen to the Hills District Dads show on a live FM 90.5 for a bit of fun banter. So that's where I'll be watching Origin tomorrow night, Wednesday night. So Wednesday when this comes out, that's where I'll be watching Origin. So tune in if you want to. Anyway, now to the NRL, and it all kicks off on Friday night at 8 p.m. and look, NRL, once again, I've said there's one game on a Friday night and it kicks off at 8 p.m. Can we please get it to 7:30 p.m. if there is one game on a Friday? Please, even on a Thursday night, get it to 7:30 kickoff rather than 8 o'clock. But anyway, this is played up at McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle, and it is the Newcastle Knights taking on the West Tigers. The Knights in 14th, the Tigers in 17th. So, look, no changes to the Newcastle side, and the Tigers coming off a bye as well. So, as well as the Knights as well, I think, from last week. So, Kalen Ponga, he has not played in the State of Origin series this year, so he's back at fullback. Bradman Best has been named at this stage in the centres to return for Newcastle, so only 48 hours after State of Origin, so injury-free and suspension-free. He will probably line up for Newcastle in this game. Look, it's going to be the Tigers. Where do you go for the Tigers? Alex Twala's back after his suspension. He's back on the bench. Can he score another try? Who knows? But yeah, look, Api Coruscant has been named, but hooker, so he returns from a broken jaw. So that's a good aspect for the Tigers that he returns. Look, the Tigers showed a little bit of fight against the Sharks last week, but unfortunately couldn't get the job done. I think this is going to be a Newcastle win. They are wanting to stay in the hunt for the top 8. So I'm going to go Newcastle in this one. I'm going to go 13 plus in this one. I think the Newcastle Knights will turn it on for their faithful home crowd. Now, an interesting stat that came out of last week's round was the fact that all away teams won. There was only 5 games and no home teams won a game. So interesting stat, that one. So I'm sticking with the Knights, who are at home on Friday night. Now, 3 games on Super Saturday sees the Bulldogs take on the Broncos in the first game at 3 p.m. This one is a Belmore Sports Ground game between the Bulldogs and the Broncos. Now, if you have seen the news this week, Josh Reynolds, a Bulldogs favourite son, has announced his retirement from the NRL, so he will be playing in the curtain raiser for the Bulldogs in the New South Wales Cup against, I think it's the North Sydney Bears. So there'll be a huge crowd for that one out at Belmore to farewell Josh Reynolds from Rugby League. But to the first grade game now, the Bulldogs 15th. They had a good win against the South Sydney Rabbitohs last week. The Broncos had the bye last week. They are raging hot favourites in this game. They'll obviously get Payne Haas is out, but they'll get their State of Origin players back, you would think, after the game on Wednesday night. Toby Sexton, halfback for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, had a great game. Great first up game for the Bulldogs. Sort of ran them around very well. Looked like he'd been playing there for a little bit, but that was his first game for the Bulldogs. So he's back at halfback as well. Look, this will be an interesting game, I think. The way it will be interesting is the fact that it's at Belmore Sports Ground. So the you could call it the holy home of the Bulldogs, the traditional home of the Bulldogs. Who knows? Look, they sort of turned up and got the win against the South Sydney Rabbitohs, who did have State of Origin players out last week, and they almost lost the game in the last minute or two with the South Sydney Rabbitohs coming back. But this Broncos side is raging hot favourites. I think they'll be really keen to get this win and just keep on rolling on this season, unlike last season where they had a bit of a hiccup and they lost, I think, their last 7 games, I think, in the season and just fell out of the top 8 and missed finals. So they will want to erase last year and just they will take on the Panthers for that minor premiership. So they still have a couple of buys, I think, up their sleeve. So they will be a team to watch. So I think the Broncos will get this win. I think it might actually be a 1-12 game, this one. As I said, I think the Bulldogs might turn it up at their traditional home, Belmore Sports Ground. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I think it'll be a 1-12, but I think it'll be the Broncos who get this win. Now, the second game of Super Saturday sees the... let me just get this one back to where it is. Sorry, apologies about this one. Here we go. We've got the Sea Eagles taking on the Cowboys at 4 Pines Park, I should say, at 5:30. That's where I got my numbers mixed up. So the Sea Eagles taking on the Cowboys, and the Cowboys, they're slowly turning it back on to their 2022 form. The Sea Eagles, they can be up and down, although they did get the win last game against the Roosters at 4 Pines Park, so the traditional home of the Manly Sea Eagles. Ben Travojevic is out, and younger Madison brother, Dean Madison, has been named on the interchange bench. So congratulations to Dean. This will be his debut, I believe, and possibly debut for the Manly Sea Eagles. So congratulations to him, younger brother of Ryan Madison from the Parramatta Eels. So he's been named on the interchange bench with Aaron Woods, Ethan Bullimore and Josh Aloiai. Now, the obviously Daly Cherry Evans, captain at halfback. He'll be captain in Queensland as well. Ruben Garrick holds on to that. He goes back to fullback. And with Tommy Travojevic still out of the Manly squad, the Cowboys, look, they look relatively the same squad as what they have been running with the last couple of weeks. Reece Robson will return from Origin for New South Wales. Jeremiah Nanai as well for Queensland. Ruben Cotter for Queensland. So they've got a couple of players involved there. So, look, as I said, they are playing some really good footy at the moment. They had the week off last week. They'll be keen to keep on winning to get into that top 8. I think they won this game last year at 4 Pines Park against the Sea Eagles. They were playing much better footy last year, but they're slowly becoming back to form. So I'm going to tip the Cowboys 1-12 in that one. I don't think it'll be a tearaway game, but I think it'll be 1-12. Now, the third game on Super Saturday sees the 13th place Roosters take on the 4th place Melbourne Storm. Now, two traditional rivals here playing against each other. Sees Brandon Smith, former Melbourne Storm player, currently at the Roosters now, and he returns from injury. He played New South Wales Cup last week, and he's been named on the interchange bench at number 14, so he's taking on his former club, which players always love playing against their former club, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes there. And obviously Cameron Munster for Origin, Harry Grant for Origin, Christian Welsh, he's been in and around the Queensland camp. Those players will be named, they have been named, and they'll be lining up for the Melbourne Storm. The Roosters will James Tedesco back at fullback there and captain. He'll want to have a massive performance for New South Wales on Wednesday night. And it'll be interesting, this game as well, because it's played at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Now, the last 2 years, the Roosters have been playing at the Sydney Cricket Ground, so they may have a little bit more experience in playing at the cricket ground. Now, the reason this game is being played at the cricket ground is that Allianz Stadium is next door, is unavailable due to the women's soccer World Cup preparations that is taking place. That kicks off very, very shortly, I think next weekend to this NRL weekend. So they are playing this game at the Sydney Cricket Ground. So the Roosters, they'll have a little bit more experience than the Melbourne Storm of playing on a round field. Although these days now down in Melbourne, the Melbourne Storm are playing at Marvel Stadium, so also a round field. So, look, the Roosters, they are struggling at the moment. They are their season is slowly slipping away. They will want to get this win against the Melbourne Storm just to keep their season alive. They find themselves at the moment in 13th position on 20 points. So they will want to get this win and get another 2 points and slowly just stay in touch with those bottom top 8 sides that are on 22 points at the moment. So a loss today, this weekend against the Melbourne Storm could maybe see their season just start to slip away, and then they'll have to be relying on mathematics and other teams above them losing games and then winning games to get into that top 8. So a very crucial game for the Roosters. However, I think I'm going to have to go the Melbourne Storm in this one. I just think they're in the top 4 now. They'll want to stay there. So I'm going to go the Storm, and I'm going to go 1-12 the Storm in that one. Sunday, there is 3 games being played on Sunday, and it all starts over in New Zealand at Go Media Stadium in Auckland, and it sees the Warriors take on the Sharks. So 2 informed teams. The Sharks had a good win against the Tigers last week. The Warriors had a good win against my Parramatta Eels at Commbank Stadium. So they are in form. Look, they are playing some great footy at the moment. Luke Metcalf, he had a blinder last week. Sean Johnson, his halves partner, he has been turning back the clock and playing some really good footy. A lot of people thought at the start of the year he may have been, well, not finished as a first grader, but maybe not in that halfback position. But whatever coach Andrew Webster has been teaching him and coaching him has certainly worked. So congratulations to Sean Johnson as well. He took a risk last week by coming over to Australia with his wife, expecting their second child, but it wasn't born over the weekend, so he got away with that one. So interesting to see what will happen in this one, as it will be his 201st game Warriors game, and Ronald Volkman has been named as 20th man there in the reserves. So potentially, with this impending birth, maybe Sean may step aside and Ronald will come in this week, as it will be closer to the birth of that child. So be interesting to see what happens there. But nevertheless, the Warriors, they're playing some great footy. Look, this will be a great clash. This potentially could be the match of the round, I think. 6th versus 3rd. There's nothing in the betting there. On the way that the Warriors played last week, I think I'm going to have to go the Warriors in this one. And I think this will be a 1-12 game. Or that the Sharks will give them a good run for their money. The Warriors got the Sharks last time they played at Cronulla, so the Sharks will want to get this win and get one back at New Zealand's home ground, but I think it's going to be really difficult. It's always difficult to play over in New Zealand and get the victories, but yeah, I'm going to go with the home side on this one, and it's going to be a 1-12 game, so the Warriors 1-12. Second game on Sunday at 4:05pm sees the Dolphins play the Penrith Panthers at Kayo Stadium at Redcliffe. Now, a couple of weeks ago, when Parramatta played the Dolphins, that was played at the Sunshine Coast Stadium, but I went to Redcliffe Leagues Club after the game, and as people may know, that the Kayo Stadium is right next door to Redcliffe Leagues Club. So I saw the stadium in the dark. It looks impressive. It'd be good to watch a game there. So I can tick that one off the list as a ground that I've been to, but I just have maybe a half a tick because I haven't seen a game there. But this is the Dolphins, who had a golden point win over the Titans last week against the Penrith Panthers, who had the bye last week, and they sit up on top of the NRL ladder. Look, all the Origin players have been named in this squad, and an interesting number 24 on the extended reserves bench is Mr. Nathan Cleary. So, look, it'll be interesting to see if he plays. My personal opinion is I don't think he'll play in this game. I think Jack Cogger has been doing a good job at halfback, whilst Nathan has been out with that hamstring injury. So I think potentially he's named there, look, just in case, but I don't think he'll play. I think Jack Cogger will hold his spot there. The other Origin players have been named, so your Isaiah Yeo, Liam Martin, Stephen Crichton, Brian To'o. Look, they will probably play in this game. They'll just want to keep on solidifying their spot up there on the top of the ladder. The Dolphins, look, they'll give them a good shake in front of their home fans at Redcliffe. But look, I think this Panthers juggernaut will keep on going. I think they'll get the win here. I think last week's game against the Titans might have taken a lot out of the Dolphins side, but they do get Felice Kafusi back from he was a concussion, so he didn't play that last week. They also get Hamaso Tabuai Fido back as well from Origin duty, so that's a couple of big ins for them. But I think the Panthers will get this, and I think they'll get that very nicely as well. The last game of round 20 sees a 6:15 game between the Eels and the Titans at Commbank Stadium. Now, the big ins for Parramatta are Clint Gutherson, Mitchell Moses and Regan Campbell-Gillard, who will be obviously returning from Origin duty for New South Wales, so big ins for them. Andrew Davey goes back to the interchange bench. Sean Lane starts the game after coming off the bench last week against the Warriors in his return game from injury. So he returns. Dejan Arce retains his spot at 5'8". He played halfback last week, but he goes back to 5'8" with the return of Mitchell Moses. Sean Russell goes back to the winger's spot to make way for Clint Gutherson to go back to his fullback position, and captain co-captain with Junior Paolo as well. So some big ins there. The Golden Point Titans, who unfortunately had a loss last week against the Dolphins, they get their Origin players back. AJ Brimson, David Fafita, Tino Fasul Malawi. So some big ins there. Joe Stimson is out with concussion protocols. Jaden Campbell goes back to the interchange bench. He had a blinder last week, so he goes back to the interchange bench. You would think he would get some minutes somewhere, although maybe to give AJ Brimson a break perhaps, but maybe he won't. You just don't know whether AJ will play 80 minutes after playing 80 minutes at Origin. It's a few days later. It's the last game of the round. So maybe Jaden Campbell will come on for AJ Brimson and into that fullback position. But look, the Titans got the Eels in Magic Round the last time they played. So they put on a pretty good game last time they played. It was only a 2-point win to the Titans, but they started off really good in that game and the Eels came back. But Kieran Foran played really well that night up there at Brisbane. This one's back at Commbank Stadium. So, look, I might be a little bit biased here. Look, I think the Eels are going to put on a clinic on this game. I really think that the Eels are going to turn it on. They may even crack 50, and look, that's going bold, but look, you never know, and call me crazy. You probably call me crazy, but I really think with those players back, though, I think they might put a clinic on the Titans. Who knows what 85 minutes would have taken out of the Titans last week against the Dolphins. I really think the Eels are going to turn it on, get a big win. So I'm going to go Eels 13 plus. They're favourites in this game. They're on the cusp of the 8. They're 7th position. They're 22 points, equal with the Rabbitohs. They've got the Cowboys coming up fast, so they'll want to get this win, crucial win at home. So I'm going to go the Eels 13 plus in that one. So just recapping my tips here for this week. Now you can follow them if you want. I got 3 out of 5 last week. Hoping to get 7 out of 7 this week. Get that perfect round. So just recapping those tips for me. I'm going to go Newcastle, Brisbane, Cowboys, Storm, Warriors, Panthers, and Eels. So a mixture of home and away teams there. And let me know what your tips are. Are you going to follow them? Or if you got some other thoughts on these games and some different tips. So hope you enjoyed my thoughts on this round. And good luck in your tipping and enjoy your footy this weekend.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. See you next time.